Welcome to the fourth episode of our Dives, Works, and Fixed Fights in MMA. Today we go dumpster diving into the lower bowels of mixed martial arts to find more fake fights inside real fighting. But first, a quick terminology run. What's the difference between a worked fight, a dive, and a fix? A worked fight happens when both fighters agree beforehand on the outcome of the bout. It's essentially a predetermined spectacle, like pro wrestling, where the action is mostly scripted and the fight result is already decided.
Did you ever do any ultimate fighting in Japan? I seem to recall you may have.
Yeah, I did a work fight.
Because was it presented as a shoot and it was work? Because that was often the case.
It was a work.
A dive consists of a one-sided fix. Only one fighter is in on the plan. They lose intentionally, without the knowledge or consent of their opponent, often to cash in on a bet or under pressure from promoters, for example. This can potentially make the fight more credible, giving the winner a legitimate victory from his perspective. A fix involves external manipulation, where judges, referees, or others are paid off or coerced to ensure a specific outcome. This kind of corruption directly undermines the integrity of the entire sport. In this category, we could potentially find those questionable decisions, which the MMA community labels as robberies. However, the chances of having any of those proven to be a fix is quite slim, because getting involved into a dive, a work, or a fix, that's fucking illegal.
It's one of those unwritten rules. Like if it was a work, you're never gonna fucking mention it, ever.
Yeah.
Although they are few and far between, there are several proven fight fixes in MMA history, and this series goes after those. This episode will be no different. We start off with Overeem's older brother, Valentjin Overeem. The Dutch kickboxer had an 18-year-long career in MMA dating back to 1996, with notable wins including a submission win over Renato Babalu Sobral and a guillotine choke over the legendary Randy Couture. And just like his brother, accusations of steroid use have shadowed him throughout his career.
Also, it's a little bit genetic. My mother is a strong woman, big. My grandpa, family very big. When you're little, like you, it's hard to get big.
But for a long time, Valentjin has also been accused of taking a dive against shoot box alumni Assuério Silva at Pride 15. Silva was making his debut in Japan, coming off a 6-fight winning streak from the Brazilian scene, while Overeem was coming off a knockout loss from Gary Goodridge at Pride 14. Overeem started the fight with 2 strong leg kicks before getting taken down by a double leg from the Brazilian. Valentjin defended by threatening with a guillotine choke before sweeping Silva by sheer horsemeat strength. Overeem wasted no time raining haymakers from the guard, seemingly forgetful of the fight's alleged original plan. Silva clearly felt the damage from the punches and almost got knocked out, which prompted a panicked Overeem to stand up. Valentjin threw a misguided kick and left his leg past Silva's guard, then slowly sat on the floor and pointed towards his knee, in a bizarre signal to the Brazilian to finish the submission. Overeem then chose to lay on the ground waiting for Silva to lock his leg, rather than to mount any defense against it. Seconds later, Overeem tapped, and the shoot box crew crashed the ring to celebrate.
Go for the heel hook. The word is I have on Assuério Silva. Going for the heel hook, and he taps it out on a heel hook. Assuério Silva has defeated the leg lock expert, Valentjin Overeem, at his own game with a heel hook.
The unorthodox way this fight ended prompted immediate fight-fixing allegations, which were put to rest last year when Valentjin was interviewed by Mike Davis on the MMA History Podcast, giving the closest thing from a confession without saying the words.
Yeah, and then I got to ask you this. Assuério Silva, was it a work? Yeah. Was it a work?
What shall I say, my friend? What shall I say?
You just said it. You just said it. Good, I hope you got paid for that.
This dive aligns with the tradition of leg submission inside rigged fights, as seen in this series already with Mark Coleman against Takada, and Don Fry versus Mark Hall, just to name a few. And this won't be the last leg lock you'll see today.
I know that there's been fake fights in MMA. I know that. We just said, okay. And you got to pay. You gonna pay me $10 million to take a dive, but you said, hey, but it gotta look good though. I gotta really hit you. I'm like, fuck, I get hit all the time. Okay, and then you know that you're gonna hit me. I know that you're gonna hit me, but you know you're gonna knock me the fuck out. See, I'm thinking I'm just gonna get hit, then I gotta fall down. Boxers do that shit all the time.
Next up, we have judo legend Gokor Chivichyan in his only professional MMA fight to date. A black belt in judo, Kyokushin Budokai, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Gokor is a true historical figure in combat sports, having trained under the legendary Jean Labelle in the 80s before opening his own gym, Hayastan MMA Academy. Notable MMA names trained under Gokor include Gegard Mousasi, Manny Gamburian, Caro Parisian, and Ronda Rousey. Although highly acclaimed in judo competitions, Gokor was scheduled to make his MMA debut in 1997, after being retired from competition for almost 6 years. His initial opponent would be a fellow legend, Japanese pro wrestling star and Rings MMA founder, Akira Maeda. Maeda was an established pro wrestler in Japan since the early 80s, and after founding Rings, he started to compete in MMA, later retiring at a 38-8 record. But as this article from Bloody Elbow explains, the promoters weren't able to sign the real Akira Maeda, but found an impressive-looking Japanese fighter, dubbed him Mr. Maeda, and went on with business as usual. This mysterious Mr. Maeda walked out with a Japanese flag, but his pre-fight interview shows something is off.
One thing that I found with the stand-up fighters and grapplers is lack of speed in the stand-up fighters. I believe I can take a grappler with my speed, my power, and my endurance, and if it goes to the ground, so be it.
This elusive Mr. Maeda was actually an American from Hawaii, who has since vanished from the MMA history books. But that didn't stop a young Bruce Buffer from keeping up with the farce and introducing Maeda with unbelievable credentials.
Coming from Japan, an expert in judo. He's the Japanese national judo champion. He's currently the Muay Thai and judo world champion. And he's undefeated in over 200 bare-knuckle fights.
Gokor steps in the ring in full gi, while the allegedly Japanese Maeda wears traditional Muay Thai shorts. After a brief exchange on the feet, the fight ends up in a clinch, where Maeda tries to take Gokor down and ends up on his back. In a weird grappling scramble, Gokor jumps into a belly-down armbar, which Maeda briefly fought against, before tapping in just under a minute.
On the ground, and you're beating the best. There it goes. He's got him right there. He's jumping up. And look at him. That's a strong arm. Oh, look at that. He's a strong arm. He'll break it. He'll break it. He's got, look at him. Oh, that's it. That was quick.
For a guy with 200 undefeated fights, Maeda was quickly submitted without much pushback. But years later, Gokor still insists the fight was legit.
This guy is a very tough guy, very known in Japanese fighters. Is a Japanese and Brazilian mix up. And he's a good jiu-jitsu guy, good Thai boxing guy. He never lost his life and everything. So, very good fight.
Gokor's pupil, Caro Parisian, shared his side of the story in a later podcast and refrained from elaborating too much on the matter.
Did you ever watch his fight in the WFF against Mr. Maeda, Gokor?
Yeah, I watched the fight. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I watched the fight, bro. Of course, we were there. It was, I know that was going to happen. I mean, I just didn't know Mr. Maeda, who he was. But the guy was a specimen, dude. But I really don't know. I thought he couldn't even speak English, and then when I heard him speak, I was like, oh, okay. The guy is an American-Japanese fighter. So, yeah, I saw the fight. I'm sure you guys saw the fight.
Yeah, I was just curious about your opinion of it. Like, yeah, I mean, it's the guy was absolute specimen.
Not much of an opinion. It was just Gokor. I knew it was going to happen. The guy, he was a stand-up fighter, and Gokor just tied him up. They went on the ground, and he got an armbar.
On the other hand, former UFC champion Oleg Taktarov, when asked about the fight, chose the silence of 1,000 words.
Chris, guess who else was on that same card?
I got no idea. Who you got there, Mike?
Gokor versus Bill Maeda.
Oh.
Wait, let's not go there, guys. Okay, guys. I'm not gonna say anything about it.
Okay. Interesting fight.
That says a lot. We've seen works in MMA. They were done really, really poorly. And the reason Pride was able to get away with it is the celebration by the victor looked so sincere. And it looked sincere because it was sincere. And it was sincere because he didn't know that the other guy was told when to go down. Now, that's a fascinating concept for those of you that follow that.
Next up, we have an old story from Uncle Chael that has some new information coming to light now. Back in 2003, the American gangster was a 26-year-old up-and-comer in his 10th pro fight, matched up against Homer the Rock Moore in what he called a fix by the events promoter.
A promoter can have so much pull that he can decide a match even though maybe that's not the way it's intended to do. I had one of those.
The fight footage is unfortunately lost media as of now, but from testimonials from the parties involved, we can put together a clearer picture.
It was called Rumble on the Rock. BJ Penn was putting it on. I was the main event. I flew out there on short notice to take on a guy called Homer Moore. And they gave Homer the win. And BJ Penn's father came in the back, took the win from Homer, right in front, they paid in cash, gave it to me, and let us all know Homer lost and Chael won. He reversed the decision. And that holds.
The most important part of what Chael just said is that he took the fight in Hawaii on short notice. What transpired is actually much different.
I cornered Homer when we went to Rumble in the Rock when he beat Chael Sonnen. It was ridiculous what they did that night. I tell you, I flew out to Hawaii for Rumble in the Rock and I cornered him with 1 day notice, and he beat Chael Sonnen, controlled him, dominated him for 3 rounds.
Yeah, Homer Moore's legit.
They raised Homer's hand. 2 hours later, we were partying at the after party, and they said they're going to overturn the decision because they watched the films. Really? Well, Chael Sonnen was training with BJ Penn for the last few weeks, so of course, who owned the show, right?
Longtime MMA manager and promoter Rolando Sarria was in Homer's corner that night and has repeatedly pointed out that Sonnen and BJ Penn were training together prior to that event, and the fight was far from short notice on Chael's side.
But I believe he was training with PJ Penn for over a month privately, because PJ Penn, I think, was looking for a wrestler.
The timeline matches perfectly, as BJ was scheduled to face the most dominant wrestler in the UFC at the time, welterweight champion Matt Hughes at UFC 46 in January 2004, just a month after Sonnen's fight. So apparently, Chael was much closer to the event's promoters than he says, and there may have been collusion between the two to change the fight's result. A month later, BJ would break Matt Hughes' 13-fight winning streak with a rear naked choke in the first round. Finally, Homer Moore shared his take regarding the fight in the MMA History Podcast released earlier this month.
Your hand got raised.
Yeah, absolutely.
They announced you as the winner.
Like that. Proudly through the whole arena. There's no way in hell you can take that back. That's why when to this day, he's hiding that. And the UFC is now since then giving him a job. Had I had that win right now with the camaraderie, they would be saying Homer Moore has topped Chael Sonnen, which this fight was covered up for over 20 years.
At the time, Sonnen was admittedly doing everything he could to get in the UFC.
I was so desperate to get into the UFC, and so was my family, and it looked like that opportunity wasn't going to happen for me. My mother had a plan, and my mother wasn't a wealthy woman, but she was willing to pay $50,000 to Joe Silva, who was the matchmaker at the time, to get me into the UFC. And the opponent that I would have had at that time was Andrei Arlovsky.
So, one question still remains. Why did the promoters reverse the judge's decision after the fight and gave Chael Sonnen the win? Regardless of the answer, Chael has an illegitimate W on his record, which, according to his own words, helped him get into the UFC. We can only hope the fight footage will surface sometime in the future. But Sonnen's proximity to BJ Penn's family, who were Rumble on the Rock's promoters, makes the incident even more strange.
I had to swallow this for like 15 years. None of the video footage of that show and that fight has surfaced because Chael Sonnen has took the time to hide that and prevent that from surfacing, so you all have to make your own choice and decision based off of turn the bell. And BJ Penn is in on him, so I contacted him. I see him at the UFC Expo. He gave me his number card, never answered. So you guys make your choice.
This guy gave me some good reason. A lot of bad blood. I don't really want to go into it here. I want to do it in the ring. I want to finish it in the ring with him, and maybe give him a little beat down, teach him a little bit of a lesson, and show him that, that I'm not the guy you want to mess with.
We close off with one of MMA's most disgusting figures, Rafiel Torre, a fake black belt, a con man, and later, a convicted murderer. Torre started off around the MMA scene as a hands-on journalist, covering events of any size in the dark ages of the late 90s.
Oh, dude, he was probably one of the top 3 writers in all of MMA.
Well, I remember he was very productive, and he would do, he was doing his version of gonzo journalism for MMA, like asking MMA fighters if they like anal sex.
Writing for Sherdog and The Underground, Torre began to make a name for himself among the hardcore community at a time where MMA was being pushed to illegality in the US. But Torre had his own fighting aspirations.
This is how full of shit this guy was. This guy had a friend drop him off in the woods because he said he was going to a Kumite karate contest, like a big karate competition, but it was no rules and it was secretive. So he dropped him off in the woods. He dropped him off in the woods with a duffel bag.
Yeah.
He gave him a duffel bag. Like, he had a duffel bag with him, rather. And it's like a duffel bag that's just big enough to fit a trophy in it.
Yeah.
Right? Like about this big. So he leaves, goes out into the woods. The guy comes back the next day. He's got a trophy. No duffel bag. So he brought a fucking trophy with him. And then he came out of the woods like, yeah, I won. I fucked everybody up.
A self-proclaimed black belt, Torre leveraged his connections with ADCC President Sheikh Tanoun to compete in the 1998 tournament. His black belt was quickly put into question when he was submitted in under a minute on his first and only fight in the most prestigious grappling competition in the world. Torre was effortlessly taken down by a single leg from Bo Hirschberger and fell into half guard, which was also effortlessly passed to Mount. His grappling illiteracy was crystal clear, choosing to grab his own gi lapel rather than fight for positioning. Hirschberger used Torre's gi against him to mount a standing lapel choke and got the tap in 58 seconds. His con was beginning to fall, as his fake name and also fake Brazilian background were exposed.
I was really like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And so then he calls him up, and he was like, hey, are you a fucking black belt? Like, tell me your... The guy's like, well, I'm a black belt in Japanese jiu-jitsu. He goes, stop. Are you a fucking black belt? And there's like this big pause. He's like, bro, you're a fucking liar. You're a liar.
So, to further cement his status as a legitimate fighter, Torre did what any sensible person would do: have his own fixed MMA fight. 3 years after his ADCC fiasco, Torre would put his alleged undefeated 16-0 MMA record on the line in what was marketed as his comeback fight. That genius idea was followed by King of the Cage promoter's own 200 IQ move to host an open-air event. The result was pouring rain, a soaked canvas, and a trench-coated Bruce Buffer announcing the fights, as the event staff scrambled to wipe the floor dry.
You've read his articles on the internet. You've seen his photos on the internet. You've seen him at the King of the Cage. But now, you're seeing him come out of retirement with a record of 14-0 in no-holds-barred fighting. Standing 6 feet tall, weighing in at 195 pounds. Please welcome to the cage, the ever-impressive Mr. Rafiel Torre!
Torre's opponent was an alleged former student of his, 300-pound Hawaii native Ioka Big Joe Tawanu. But that didn't stop Torre from selling the fight as a bad blood feud.
There's a lot of bad blood. I figured, if I was going to ever come out, it'd have to be for a good reason, and I'd want to do it in a good show, and I figured King of the Cage was the best show in the U.S., and this guy gave me some good reason. A lot of bad blood. I don't really want to go into it here. I want to do it in the ring. I want to finish it in the ring with him, and...
The far from ideal conditions and the overall sloppiness of the night helped to conceal part of the fix, but clearly not enough. At the beginning of the fight, Torre slipped on the canvas and has Big Joe following him to the ground in an especially soft top position. Outweighing Torre by 100 pounds, Big Joe chose to stand back up to the slippery canvas, only to get taken down by a single leg from the much smaller Torre. They landed on full guard, which was passed with no resistance to half guard, and then side control. Now, Torre begins his very slow and badly choreographed leg lock setup, also with zero defense from his alleged former student.
Rafael's got his head free. He's got his head one more time. Big Joe holding on. Does not want to be on the ground with Rafiel Torre. Knee bar. Rafiel Torre. He's got him in a knee bar. He's tapping. It's over. Excellent work, Rafiel Torre. Knee bar.
An absurdly bad leg lock, which wasn't even in place when Big Joe started tapping, marked the finish of his farcical fight. As the allegations of fight fixing piled up, it was later revealed by several publications that Rafiel Torre actually paid Big Joe to take a dive.
Later, I talked to Big Joe because I saw him in town, and he had another one of our former students, Kenny Tenorio, and they said, that was a work, right? And I still didn't want to believe it, but they said, that was a work, right? He gave Joe $1,000 to take that dive. And I thought, oh my God. Of course, I told Eddie, and Joe Rogan. But yeah, he gave Big Joe the $1,000, the secret $1,000 that he said. Yeah.
Later, it also came to light that this was indeed Torre's only MMA professional fight. His name wasn't Rafiel Torre, but Ralph Bartel. He wasn't Brazilian and obviously wasn't a BJJ black belt. But as the life of a con artist narcissistic liar wasn't enough, Torre would later become a murderer. Ostracized from the MMA community and now entangled with a married woman, in 2005, Torre murdered her husband to get a $1 million life insurance on his name.
The wife of this guy that he strangled, so they decided to set this up, and he choked the guy to death.
Yeah.
Killed the guy with a rear naked choke.
How ironic is it that his black belt wasn't legit, but he killed someone with a rear naked choke?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's currently serving life in jail for the murder of Brian Richards. A deeper dive into Rafiel Torre's story is amazingly presented in Napoleon Blonapart's The Folly of Fantasy-Based Fighting and the documentary Fighting in Plain Sight, both linked in the description.
This is him hitting the pads.
Oh, wow.
Look at this footage.
Oh, snap. You didn't tell me that. Look at that jump kick.
Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you liked the video and subscribe to the channel for more of the weird side of MMA. If you want to further support the channel, Consider joining in as a member for just $2. Thank you once again, and see you in the next one.
Do you see normal people going up and down, up and down, up and down? No. Most people, most healthy human beings carry their weight if they are healthy. Some of you are not. All right? So